Welcome to another episode of Axe of the Blood God and Independent RPG Podcast. I'm your host, Kat Bailey. Joining me as always, my lovely co-host, Nadia Oxford.
Hello, Kat. We're all dusty bitches here, just like the PS Vita, which means life. Yeah, we had a conversation in the pre-show.
The pre-show is lit, as always.
Yeah. My Vita is dusty, but I will fix that. I promise.
Also joining us, my equally loyal co-host, Eric Van Allen.
I love that you can never let a good pre-show bit stay in the pre-show. You have to be like, no, this is getting cemented into podcast legacy.
It's escaping containment.
Yeah.
You don't even want to know the many things that I could apply the term dusty bitch to. Various parts of the anatomy, you know.
And joining us, our returning champion, it's IGN's Mitchell Saltzman.
Returning champion, I like it.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
I mean, you are the fighting game king over at IGN.com.
I
mean, I don't like to say it, but
but it's true.
Ronnie Barrier actually gives me a good run for my money on a lot of games, so shout out to him.
Mitchell's here to join us because he reviewed Elden Ring Nightreign, the new FromSoftware joint that is their take on the roguelite genre, but with co-op and a lot of other things. We played some for a stream yesterday. Mitchell reviewed it. He gave it a 7 out of 10 over at IGN and said that it's amazing in many ways, but also just a bit tarnished. We'll be delving into why in just a little bit. We'll also be sharing our SGF predictions and talking about it, because next week is going to be a giant week between the launch of the Switch 2 and SGF and everything else as well. I'm really exhausted thinking about it. So that will be in the tavern segment. Before we get to that, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/bloodgodpod. Your generous donation allows us to keep doing this show and gets you lots and lots of bonus content, like the ability to join our Discord and be in our rad book club for the 5th season. Also, coming out this week, it's our next Pantheon. It's for Vagrant Story. Victor, Nadia, John Learned. Very cool. That will be out on Wednesday. It's year 2025, and Axe of the Blood God has a TikTok. Like and subscribe over on TikTok at BloodGodPod.
No, you're not too old.
You have to say
and we
like
have our
Emperor
sister
Palpatine.
podcast.
Naughty over.
No, you're not too old. Do it.
I'll find you. I'll find out where you sleep. You don't want that.
And we have our sister podcast, Charlie and Dropouts, which is our Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV again. This is not a drill.
Yeah, when Kat told us that she's playing Final Fantasy XIV, she's at Titan. Of course, I started to go, $1 $1 Titan, $1. And of course, everyone, anyone who could joined in, because that's what you're supposed to do. That was the raid that they took away the permadeath from the jump back, the drop, because everyone kept jumping off.
That's a rite of passage.
That was a rite of passage.
Every dragoon.
Every sprout.
Yeah. The first time I ran that as a dragoon. So, Kat, for context, in the Final Fantasy XIV fight against Titan, the trial, the part where the platform shrinks with each successive move. Previously, if you fell off of that, you were just out for the entire fight. You could not be revived. You were gone. You were in the pit, in the abyss, in the ether.
That's where I live.
Dragoons had an ability that they got pretty close to that trial, I think. That was a backflip.
Yes, around that trial, yeah.
That's meant to dodge attacks, so you can kind of do your combo, and then right before the pea puddle pops, you flip backwards and get out of it. So many dragoons, myself included, backflipped off of the platform and into the pit, and it was a rite of passage. Everybody in the fight was like, "Oh yeah, oh it's so fun! Oh we love."
I got the most commendations from that fight.
Yeah, it's everybody loves it because it's they all know it.
It's a pretty
they
good
all relate
fight.
to it. Yeah,
pretty good fight.
They look at all the sprites, all the sprouts go for it. They just die.
It's great.
Sprouts.
They should have left that in. That's such a good bit.
It is a good bit. Before we get to the show, I have a little bit of a call to action for the Axe of the Blood God community. We're heading into June, and this is undoubtedly one of the most important months in the Patreon era for Axe of the Blood God, we're going to try and get to partner on twitch.tv/bloodgodpod. We're going to be streaming like 12 times this month. On June 5th, when the Switch 2 comes out, we are going to be doing a Switch 2 launch stream. We're going to be co-streaming SGF and the Xbox Showcase and the Nintendo Direct if it ever happens, and the State of Play if that ever happens. We got a lot of events, and it's all culminating in our charity stream in the last weekend of June. What we need from you is to be showing up in force, because we want as many people as possible to be able to build up our averages over on the Twitch channel. We've had healthy crowds. We've been watching the concurrence go up. It's amazing. I think being a partner would really take it to the next level. It's a reminder, we do this every Saturday, usually every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, unless we say otherwise. I think we're going to be doing the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy review on a Monday to accommodate some schedules, but generally speaking, that's when you can expect our live shows. So please do us a favor if you haven't already. Come on over, check us out while we're streaming, and like and subscribe.
Do it for Poe.
Okay.
Do it for Poe.
Do it for Poe. Look at that little face.
Look at him.
So you can't see the face unless you're watching Twitch. It's adorable. Okay, last thing. Every single week, we highlight a Star of Destiny. They're the folks who join us for our pre-show and post-show. And this week's Star of Destiny is Spyrus, who helped me out in Final Fantasy XIV to kill Titan. Thank you so much, Spyrus, for your generous support. Okay, let's talk about Elden Ring Nightreign. In a nutshell, it's a new multiplayer version of Elden Ring that reimagines it as a sort of open world roguelike co-op thing. It contains battle royale elements like the map getting smaller. It's spread over 3 days, the third day being when you fight the boss. Individual sessions take about 45 minutes. It's very original. However, this is the first FromSoftware game in a while to get kind of mixed reviews. It has a 77 on Metacritic. It's currently sitting on mixed over on Steam. And Mitchell's review gave it a 7. Mitchell, why is this game kind of struggling to resonate with some people?
Man, this was a game that I really struggled a lot with, grappling with my thoughts on it, because you have one of those like amazing runs where, you go through this whole arduous process of getting to day 3, and then it's just like this amazing boss battle you just squeeze by, and it's, a boss that you've been struggling with for a long time. It is that classic FromSoft feeling of like triumph and victory after like a really hard fought battle. And then, you play without, that squad that you communicate really well with, and you either jump into a random match or a solo match, and it's just like I keep playing hoping that I can get that experience back, but it's just not the same when you can't communicate with your partners, or you're playing in the solo mode that's just not very well balanced for solo play. So it's just it's a really conflicting game, just from my own thoughts on it. So I kind of arrived at a 7 in balancing, the extreme goods with, the other side of it. And I don't feel like I could have gone any higher than that.
Yeah, I think I see where you're coming from. Like, we played it yesterday for quite a while, and I was thinking, like, how do you even play this game with strangers without coordinating? It's not like a boss fight. Like, you know what's going on with the Dark Souls boss fight. You're not going anywhere. But
yeah,
ping.
you can ping. You can ping, but that's relatively limited communication tools. Otherwise,
there's a lot you have to do to get like beefy enough to really take on a boss. Like, I found the whole experience quite rushed. And the thing it was nice to be dropped into the Elden Ring world. I'm like, oh, I remember that. Oh shit, here comes a storm, and it's just like, it just feels like it goes by maybe faster than it needs to. And one problem we were coming up with a lot was that we would build up, and something would kill us, and we would like lose a level. And once you get to the boss, even losing one level can make the difference between doing actual damage and doing ping damage. So it feels like it needs more balancing.
Yeah, and that's really another one of the problems, is that it is so punishing if you die to one boss, you lose one level, and yet there's no way to like vote to cancel out of a match. You have to either quit out and incur a penalty, or you just have to stick with it and face the inevitable loss on whatever boss you're about to fight. Because at a certain point, you just don't do enough damage. The bosses have too much health. So you have to be like above a level threshold, unless you're some sort of god at Elden Ring and you can just dodge everything that a boss throws at you. But even then, the enemies, the way that they are tuned in this game, makes it very, very hard to like reliably dodge or parry or do any of those things that you normally do in that would like display your mastery of a Dark Souls or Elden Ring boss.
Mitchell, I'm curious what you think of the character classes, because I have some thoughts on this. So one of the ways that Elden Ring Nightreign differs from a lot of your traditional Souls games is that you have a character. You do not customize those characters.
Yeah, I missed that.
You choose between a handful of different classes. So you got a witch, you got your more traditional Elden Ring warrior or Dark Souls warrior. You have almost a Sekiro-like character who can parry. You got an archer. But obviously it's at a little bit more of a remove because you're choosing a pre-built character.
I actually think they did such an amazing job with the character classes in this game. I think they each are very simple and easy to pick up and kind of get the vibe of how they play. There are a couple of characters like the Recluse and the Revenant who are like you need to spend some time in the sparring ground to really wrap your brain around what it is that they actually do. But I think FromSoft did a really good job of making the characters easy to understand and simple to play, but also have layers of hidden depth to them. Like for example, the Iron Eye. It really is about managing that cooldown of your character skill to mark enemies and increase everyone's damage to it. But you also kind of want to hold on to that move as a way to get away from certain attacks because it has invulnerability frames when you dash.
Yeah.
And then there's also like the Wilder, who starts out with a very basic kind of grappling hook. But as you get relics, you get things that are like now you get 2 stocks of the grappling hook. That completely changes how you use that move. You can get a follow-up attack on it so that you can like zip to an enemy, do a lunging attack that turns your sword into like a fire sword. There's all kinds of things like that add just a little extra layer of nuance to these characters and make it so that every time you play, you feel like you're getting better at that character.
Yeah, I do like that you can collect permanent upgrades through the relics. Like stuff like that's important to me.
I
like
also,
it too. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say, I think that the class design is something that feels really fresh and interesting, because I think looking at past FromSoft games, you kind of have those classes and starting roles that you can start with in previous games, but they felt a little shoehorny. They felt a little like, okay, you are going to pick the one that you think you're going to use for whatever build you're going to make, and that's just kind of the starting foundation, the starting layer, like you saying, I want to put my points here or whatever. But being not just forced to play a certain play style, but then have an entire kit built around it. I think the Recluse is actually like really, really interesting as a character. Being able to like pull magic out of the air and then fire it back at the enemy is really cool. And it even rethinks the way that FromSoft approaches FP and magic and how you usually meter that in a game, making it so you're not having to think about your flask and splitting that, but think about alternative ways of gathering FP or how your skills can gather FP. Like, there's a lot of really interesting little touches here that work on the broader Elden Ring formula that reminds me of Shadow of the Erdtree, in the way that it felt like Erdtree was also thinking, okay, how do we take the traditional formula that we've seen in Elden Ring or even in a Souls game and remix it and make it feel different in new context, in new light. And I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I'll just add, like, to go into the Recluse. It's not just about knowing how to use that skill to restore your mana, but they have a really unique aspect to them where they can make a magic cocktail. Basically, if they absorb a blue magic, a red magic, and a yellow magic, that is a unique spell that they can then cast by doing their character skill again, and the effects of them are crazy. Like, you can have one that just does a huge, like, huge explosion with a slow moving bomb. There's one that lets you spit out fire for like 5 seconds. There's one that can put a healing thing on the ground. So again, it just adds that extra layer, that extra level of mastery for a character, where like you could play as a recluse and do okay if you're just using your skill to restore your magic and cast spells. But the higher level recluse is going to be knowing what each magic cocktail does, being able to use the right one for the right situation, and it just completely changes that character's power.
You said some of the boss battles were really clever in your review. What really sets them apart from your typical FromSoftware boss battle experience? Because obviously they are the master of creating boss battles, so they set quite a high bar overall.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just they up the challenge because they know that there's going to be 3 of you all going after this boss at once. So, bosses are harder to stagger. It feels like they do more damage. They have moves that are harder to dodge. But then also there's this extra layer to it where they are clearly inspired by MMO boss battles. So like, for example, Libra has like this attack where he'll like put a giant shield over himself and a bunch of seals will pop up, and it's up to your team to go and break all those seals, because if you don't, he'll come back down and have just this massive buff that makes him a lot harder to kill, and his spells will be a lot more devastating as well. So, and then there's another, like, I love the Libra fight so much. And then there's this other attack where he like goes into a hovering meditative stance, and you'll just take madness. Well, your madness level will just increase like up and up and up and up.
So FromSoftware.
You have to stop what you're doing, run around, collect all these little yellow balls that will decrease your madness, and just hope that you survive like that attack. So there's a lot of twists to kind of the classic FromSoft boss battle that they're doing with this game that makes it more appropriate for a multiplayer boss fight.
I don't want to quibble with FromSoftware being clever. I don't even know if I necessarily want it to be a single player experience. Reading between the lines, it seems like most people are respect the creativity, respect the usual level of presentation, the boss battles, but they feel like it puts you into a little bit of a box where it's like you can only play with 3 people. You need to have at least 2 friends to be able to properly enjoy this game. Also, there's no crossplay, which is really painful, I think, because I was like, well, I guess I'll get it on PS5 instead of PC so that I can play with everybody. And there are people who, like, I think Eric was kind of torn between, well, I got a set of friends who are on PC, and I got a set of friends on PS5. And I think the lack of crossplay really stings in this particular instance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really, really wish it had crossplay. I frankly, like just honestly don't think there's a reason for it not to have that. And I think that's one. I'm gonna say something else a little bit bold. I think this game needs proximity voice chat. I'm just being honest there. I'm cool with proximity voice chat and not just like match wide voice chat. But there's something about, like we were talking earlier about the ping system, and there is a lot of ways of communication in Elden Ring, Nightreign. There's a lot of ways to kind of point at something. There's the mini map. There's the actual like bar at the top that can kind of tell you where your teammates are. But I think when you have a group of 3, there's something unique about that where if you're playing solo, you're going to go where you want to go, right? If you're playing duos, I think somebody ends up taking the lead by default. Journey kind of proved that years ago that, you can kind of figure it out if it's just 2 of you. But if there's 3, that's like the magic number where somebody's got to either step up and lead, or everybody's going to kind of not want to, you suddenly get into group dynamics, and having the ability to have someone just start shot calling, I think just makes it a little bit easier on everybody. Or even just an option for proximity voice chat, and you can turn it off if you don't want it. But I know that might be heretical to some longtime FromSoft fans who do enjoy, and I think in a traditional, in Elden Ring and stuff like that, a traditional, put the soapstones down and read them and haha, try-finger butthole, like that's all great. But
Nice.
I don't know that it's super like the absence of it works for me here in Nightreign. I think there should be some way of making that function, but I think crossplay is the most important thing. Like I don't understand why this doesn't have crossplay. Same way that I don't understand why this doesn't have a duos mode. That's also just bizarre to me, and it was really funny reading the IGN interview where they were basically like, oh yeah, we didn't really think of that, did we?
It was such like a
what?
oh yeah.
Well, we made 3.
I
We
think
made 1.
It's okay. I'm okay with not playing with by myself, but I do think a duos mode is really important to add to this one. Just it feels a lot more doable to have one other friend that you can play with. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Helldivers 2, you can just do duos, right? Like you can just go in and play with one other person as opposed to playing with 4 other people. Am I wrong?
I'm almost positive that you can.
I think you can. I think like by default it will just
It's not
autofill
advisable,
you.
right?
Well, and that's the other thing is like there's autofill in those. So like once you start a Helldivers match, people can join in and drop in on you, and it's not going to like radically change because you don't have in-match progression in that way, right? You can pick up things that are kind of lying around in a Helldivers match, but you're mostly trying to just do the thing with stuff you brought in from outside the match versus Elden Ring Nightreign is about progression inside the match. It's almost sorry, don't throw rocks at me. It's almost MOBA-esque in that way where you can't drop into a League of Legends match like halfway through. How do you handle that? How do you accommodate for what amount of gold or levels that a character should have at any given point based off of the victory status of the team? It's difficult.
Yeah.
So I do sympathize with the idea of like how
tuning
they have
it would
to
be
manage
so
all
hard.
this. What's up?
And I know that they're doing tuning it is so hard.
Yes.
Having a duos experience that works along with the version that they had originally designed around. I know that they're working on something. They've said that this is probably on the docket, that they're gonna put in a proper duos mode, but it's a tricky thing. So we've spent a bunch of time dwelling on the multiplayer aspects of it, but I want to focus more on the RPG aspects because we are an RPG podcast.
Oh shit, we are.
Mitchell, how much of that, like really those aspects that make kind of Elden Ring or Dark Souls really special, the sense of discovery, the sense of mystery, the interesting choices, the secrets, how much is that kind of work its way into Nightreign?
So discovery, not so much. This is not a game about going somewhere and having an unexpected encounter. This is all about expected encounters. You need, if you're playing this kind of game, you need to know what to expect at a point of interest because it helps you kind of plan your path around it. So that feeling of like just wild exploration where you can go to in any direction, you'll have some sort of encounter that is maybe surprising and also has a good reward tied to it. None of that really exists in Nightreign because you don't know what reward you're going to get, and you know exactly what you're going to what you can expect when you go to an area on the map. But the things that I like about Elden Ring, the fact that you can approach a combat challenge in a number of different ways, depending on what class you have, the variety in the enemy and boss design, and just the quality of the weapons that you can get, all of that is still present, and it kind of has this satisfying way of taking you from a level 1 to like a level 80 character in Elden Ring, all in the span of 45 minutes. So that aspect of it, I think, is very, very cool, and you get to experience that aspect of Elden Ring. But a lot of the other aspects, it's the difference in genre, right? Open world RPG versus roguelite. So a lot of stuff just comes with that territory.
There's a lot of crossover, I think. One thing that I was thinking about was in Elden Ring, if I die to a boss, I can go back and try back that boss again pretty quickly. If I die to a boss in Nightreign in day 3, after 45 minutes, that's pretty rough.
Well, I'll tell you what. I also did, a preview of this game at FromSoftware, and it was like, a 2-day long preview, and they made us. I don't know if you guys have played Libra. Libra was the only boss I could play at that event, and usually you'd build up your skills and knowledge of the game before you got to that boss, but because I had to do it exclusively, it took us the whole first day. And we still didn't beat that boss. It was like 7 hours of gameplay, and we still
with
didn't
you
beat the boss.
too.
Yeah, I'm like, we also had someone from Bandai, so like it was not about the quality of our team. It was just experience playing that map and learning what all the points of interest are, and what bosses you should absolutely just run away from unless you're at a certain level threshold. All of that is stuff that you learn over the course of many runs. And man, I was feeling very anxious on day 2 when we had to get that footage of us being the boss. Fortunately, we did it on the first try on day 2, but yeah, it was.
Jeez,
it was wild.
I do think though, and I soapboxed a bit about this earlier this year, and I'm going to do it again over Nightreign, is that I see people bristle against and not saying it was happening here, but I've seen broadly people bristle against the idea of RNG and the idea of like, oh, well, I can't control what it's going to give me, so like what am I going to do? I'm just going to get screwed by RNG or whatever. I think that mastering RNG is a form of skill expression and a form of player expression, and being able to take whatever the game gives you, manage risk. What you just said about like, should I fight this boss? Am I capable of fighting this boss? Are the rewards of this boss that I know could or could not drop, are they worth the inherent risk? When we were playing the other day, we would go fight an Everjail boss, and then all of a sudden, oh, the storm is closing in. We need to Amscray. We need to get out. This is not worth it anymore. Being able to make those calls is a form of skill expression. And I actually like that, Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in Nightreign, if you beat a boss up enough, you can go back the next day and they will have, they have taken damage. They will still be weak from the previous fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they restore health at all, actually.
Yeah, so there's like elements there that do kind of reward smart play over just reckless disregard. And so I kind of like seeing the FromSoft team play in that arena, because it seems like they've got some really good ideas about, I think that the very concept, the paper description of what if we did a roguelike Souls game, just made 3 different executives who don't understand video games pass out from nosebleeds. But like it is like fundamentally a really interesting idea, and seeing FromSoft explore that space is really cool, because I think there's so much room for player expression, skill expression, and development of the formula in a way that is not just adhering to the way that they've made it before. So I find that really exciting and cool, and I hope that the discussion doesn't get hinged up on like, oh, well, this didn't give me the one staff that I know casts the spell that I like, so I can't win this run and we're all screwed. I know there's going to be players out there like that, but it's like a really cool thing, because it forces you to engage with the game differently than you would in Elden Ring, where you kind of make your build and that's your character and that's how you play it, and you play this one car the right way. Instead, you're having to like build the car as you're going around the racetrack and grabbing parts off of the side and slapping it in and hoping it stays together for the finish line.
The randomness, I'll say also, like it helps in the actual run, because it's one of those things that makes every run feel a little bit different. Like you're maining a different weapon every run basically. And what I really like about it is it allows me to explore the vast arsenal of Elden Ring that I never really got to, because when you play Elden Ring, unless you're crazy and you make all these different characters that you bring up to a max level,
which people do.
People absolutely do. But for me, I've done maybe 3 characters and that's kind of it. So like a lot of the Elden Ring arsenal is completely new to me, and it's exciting playing as a character type that I didn't play in Elden Ring, and being able to see, you know, their best weapons and, you know, weapon arts that I've never experienced before in base Elden Ring, spells that I never got to use. That aspect of it is really, really cool. And it was also one of the things I really like about God of War's roguelike. Also, I love this idea of these RPGs incorporating a roguelite aspect, because it does allow you to, you know, explore some of the things that you might not have gotten to see in that mainline game.
I've been out here saying it for years. Rogue games are good. More people should play them.
Oh, I love roguelite.
Since the days of FTL, I was out there playing FTL in its Kickstarter form. I've been saying roguelites are good. Y'all got to play them.
They're so addictive.
My profile picture on Twitter has been Spunky Guy forever for a reason.
Yeah.
A classic. Yeah.
I think at its best, you know, this game can be really addictive. I think we were streaming it, not having a ton of success, unfortunately. But I was like, gotta do one more run. I really want to try. I think we're almost there. I think we can get over the hump. And we still died. But it does feel like success can be within your grasp if you just keep going a little bit further, a little bit harder. And I totally agree with your point, Mitchell, about being able to explore all the different aspects of Elden Ring. I always play Big Sword Girl or Big Sword Boy in Elden Ring, right? Where I have the big double, you know, the big berserk sword that I slash through enemies or I pull them in. I never do magic, for example. I never do ranged attacks. So being able to play as the witch was a very different but interesting experience for me that I haven't really had in Elden Ring. So, and on that aspect, I do agree with you. One of my takeaways from this, or I guess my initial impression, this might be a little reductive, and I'm sorry, but it felt a little arcadey, a little goofy. And I think a big reason why was that storm, which I understand why they put that in, but it made me think too much of Fortnite and put a lot of pressure on me to run around as fast as I could, killing enemies and grabbing things and go, 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 go. Like, the time constraints can be compelling, but it felt really artificial in a way that I'm not necessarily used to from a FromSoftware game, which I tend to associate with feeling very lived in and moody, atmospheric, maybe not rushed in the same way that Nightreign does. The pacing really contrasts pretty sharply with their typical experience.
Yeah, like I said, the thing I loved about Elden Ring is just taking my time and finding things. Like, you know, we would find... when we were playing, we'd find a hologram. We'd be like, everyone in the hole, everyone in the hole. Whereas, like, when you're playing Elden Ring for real, you, like, find a cave or a hole or something. You're like, wow, cool, I'm going to explore this and, you know, see what's in there and not have a storm ice my ass while I'm doing that.
So this is something I talked with some friends about this after our stream, and I was remarking that I was like, I was a little bit more used to the idea of we have time constraints, we have X amount of time to gather as much power as we can and get to the center of the circle to fight the boss. And it's something that I don't know if it's a MOBA player thing, if it's a roguelite player thing, but eventually you get to a point where a lot of the things that you normally have to stop, look at, consider, you know, you start to internalize and then turn it into... I compared it to, like, especially when I play MOBAs, I try to teach people how to play a MOBA. It's like checking the mirrors of your car. If you have to think about it, you're learning to drive the car at that point, right? But eventually that becomes internalized. It goes into your reptilian lizard brain, whatever they call that part of the brain, and you just know to instinctively check it, internalize the information that you receive from it, and then use that in further decision making. But you're not consciously doing it. You're not having to be like, oh, I should check my mirrors. Duh. Okay. Like, you just get used to doing that every now and then. It's the same thing with League of Legends, checking the minimap, or roguelites and being like, okay, how much money do I have? How much experience to the next level? And that's kind of the thing with Nightreign, is the constant time pressure kind of forces you to start to internalize the different aspects of Elden Ring, right? Like, How many runes do we need? How close are we to the next level? What would benefit us right now? Where are we in location to the storm? What's near us in relation to the storm? And being able to quickly pop open the map, take all of that in, spit out a decision on the other side and say we're going here is like one of the things that I find really interesting, because like y'all are saying, Elden Ring doesn't do that. But that's why I think Nightreign is interesting, because Nightreign forces you to do that in a way that FromSoft games traditionally don't. And that's kind of novel to me. I also think that's why some people are going to struggle with this game in the long term, is it's going to make them engage with this game in a way that you traditionally don't with this stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say counterpoint. That's not why I play Elden Ring, but I think get that.
No, I find it a super interesting thing, but just because something is interesting does not mean it's going to be universally beloved, right? And
one thing. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just that was the end of the thought.
One thing I am glad for, though, is from what I understand, FromSoft wanted to do this. They wanted to try making an online multiplayer thing. Am I mistaken with that, or they weren't like forced to do anything? Like, it was just like usually when there's like an online service game, it's like, oh god,
they kind of do whatever they want.
So I'm glad they could, and they came up with, as you said, Eric, a completely different interpretation of what their games should be, and I admire them for that. Even though the thing is, I feel like maybe I would like Nightreign more if it felt more rewarding playing it single player. I just could not beat any of the bosses single player; it just was not happening. So
you're not alone.
Yeah, it felt like maybe at best the point of being there was to grind some runes, but. It's even that's just, you don't know what you're going to get for runes, so it's yeah, I could see if they do some rebalancing, it could improve the game like tenfold, and maybe they will. They probably will.
Yeah, there's a patch on the way for next week that's going to nerf a lot of the single player stuff. So
that's good. So yeah, I mean they certainly have the start for something pretty neat here, but I would at least have to see some rebalancing before I really became like a big dedicated player.
Yeah, I think the single player stuff is probably the most I shouldn't say that. The most disappointing aspect of the game is lack of crossplay. But the second most disappointing thing about the game is, I think, the solo mode. Just because it should be fun. It should be this cool way to experience the difficulty of a Souls game as a roguelite. Like that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I like the idea a lot.
And that the best experience for the game is gatekept behind all these barriers. Having two other friends who not only play on the same platform as you, but also know Elden Ring. Because I'm sorry, this game is gonna be really tough for you if you cannot get beat a certain level of bosses in Elden Ring.
Yeah,
everyone kind of has to pull their weight in order to really get through some of the harder challenges in this game, because those bosses at Night 3 are not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So just there's so many barriers of entry for this game. It would be nice to have a solo mode that was properly balanced for the experience, and you could get even just like a fraction of the fun that you would have for having a 3-player squad that all communicates well. It would be nice.
I agree.
So, Mitchell, you reviewed it. You played through a lot of it. It's kind of a hard game to get into. I'm going to be playing it with a different group tomorrow, and I feel like I'm going to be the one who's leading it. Eric did a great job of leading us. Thank you, Eric. But, I mean, Nadia and I were kind of going, oh god, we're trapped in the storm. Oh no. By the way, the wall scaling in this game is really annoying, actually.
Yeah,
I don't
it's not
really
great.
like it.
Oh, I know
I like it.
No.
I like the little hop up. It's fun.
It's kind of weird to be able to find out which walls you can actually scale, and then it's just the worst feeling when you get stuck and then you end up dying to that storm.
There's a lot of parts of this game that feel like a mod of Elden Ring, and I think that is maybe the most where it feels like a mod of Elden Ring. And I can be that complimentary too. Let me tell you, as somebody who's played a lot of mods, that can be complimentary. But that is the one where it's like, yeah, they probably at some point said we need them to be able to jump up walls because it's not going to work otherwise.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for new players, Mitchell?
Oh, I've got at least 12 of them that are on a video right now on IGN.com.
Oh no. Well, can you spoil it a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we already talked about it. extremely important if you're playing with a squad to have someone be the shot caller. Just because
For
you
sure.
waste so much time with everyone picking like their own place that they want to go, and then you gotta argue for why your place is better. And it's just like, just leave the decision making to one person, trust their decisions, and just follow them. Because yeah, ultimately this game is all about efficiency. You want to make sure that you're hitting up the right locations, you're getting through them as fast as you can, but also making a consideration of like, do I want weapon or do I want runes? Because if you just want weapon, you just want to run to the boss, kill them, and move on to the next thing. But there's certain camps that have enemies that are both fast to kill and drop a lot of runes. So for those camps, you want to make sure that you're thorough in killing all the enemies there. The Albinarchs from the bug-eyed Albinarchs, those are, if you see those in a camp, kill them. Kill them all.
Get them.
Those poor fellas can't catch a break, but man,
they exist to be farmed in Elden Ring.
Me pad the top of an Albinorg. This bad boy can hold so many runes.
I just remember spending so much time up on that cliff, just with my 2 lawnmower blades, running through them with Torrent, gathering all the runes.
Atrocities were committed on that cliff.
And they just sit there. They let it happen. It's so sad. And then you shoot
for the
terror
holes in
birds.
the ground. Make a beeline for the buildings that are on the horizon. Try and get to like level 7 before you take on the first boss of the day.
Yeah, I would say level 7 is a good spot to be. Ideally, you should try to get level 8. That would put you in a really good spot on day 2.
I was struggling to get past level 5. If I'm being totally honest.
I think I made to 7 once.
That also is like death, especially on day 1. Like, and I mean like actual death, like dropping and having to respawn and losing the level is so huge. It's a massive.
You might as well restart. You just quit.
Well, and that's the thing. You can't restart. I don't know why you can't restart. That's the other thing. I think if you're gonna balance a solo mode, you gotta give me the ability to pause and restart. Like think of Splunky if you couldn't just pause and restart a run after you wasted all your bombs, ropes, and you have like 2 lives going into the boss of the game or whatever.
There's in solo mode. There's not like an abandoned run option or anything like that.
You can only return to title.
That's really weird. They should put abandoned run as an option in the game.
At least in solo mode. And if you're going to do it...
This is Elden Ring. This is FromSoftware. We're talking about quality of life improvements. What are you talking about?
Get good.
And then if you're playing in multiplayer mode, I feel like you got to have... I mean, obviously, you can't just restart a run in multiplayer mode with 3 other people. But you should be able to vote on whether you should be able to just restart the run.
Yeah, kind of like FF14 when your tank is being an asshole, so you vote to kick him. I've been in that situation.
Interesting. I hope I never get kicked in Final Fantasy 14 by my.
I've never been kicked.
No, you're playing range DPS. Nobody notices what you're doing. It's fine. Like you get to exist on an island over there and have no responsibilities. It's fine.
Someone called me the worst Dragoon ever.
Yeah. It's like the order of critique is like healers and then tanks and then melee DPS and then range DPS. So if you're range DPS, like no one cares as long as you're not eating mechanics, you're fine. And you can eat a lot of mechanics and still get away with it. It's melee DPS.
Try to stay out of the AoEs.
Yeah, melee DPS and black mages who risk it for the biscuit, who are like, I gotta stand on my ley lines because I gotta get my damage. And then the healers over here like, I'm trying to heal you through like 8 or 9 Vuln stacks. Like, come on, please, just leave your ley lines. Sorry, this is not the 14 power hour.
Or is it?
Surprise.
Okay, any final thoughts on Elden Ring Nightreign, the new roguelite from FromSoftware?
Another tip that I think people should know, because I don't think a lot of people know this. The weakness of the boss is clearly labeled on the boss select screen, and if you target that weakness, you're going to have a much better time. Like they have specific reactions when they get hit with their weakness that kind of opens up a large damage window or debuffs them or that kind of stuff.
That's good to know.
That is a good tip.
Target the weakness.
I think
Do you recommend it? Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just gonna say with like final thoughts on Nightreign, like I really think it's an interesting thing, and I like that FromSoft is in a place where they're secure enough that they can kind of take a shot on this, put some folks that we don't usually see. I believe it's Junya Ishizaki was the director on this, rather than Miyazaki, who we're used to.
He's also the one who presented the idea to Miyazaki, and Miyazaki kind of greenlit it. So it's like a cool just story of a developer at FromSoft having a cool idea, bringing it forward, and then that idea getting made.
I like that it's like FromSoft is in a place where they're not just kind of resting on laurels, that they're willing to try some new things, let some developers take a shot at stuff. And I do think it's a really interesting shot. And that's, you know, we can talk a lot. I think it's very valid to critique the game, but I think my ultimate takeaway is like the things I like about it, the things I don't like about it. It is a very novel and interesting game that's certainly causing me to think more about what a FromSoft game could be moving forward than if it had just been, oh, we made more Souls, and like more Souls is always good, but more Souls can also wear on you after a while. I kind of felt that with Dark Souls as the series went on. I love Dark Souls 1. I have a soft spot for parts of Dark Souls 2. I think it is underrated in some ways. But Dark Souls 3 kind of lost me after a while because it felt like we were just, okay, yeah, we're doing this for the third time. And
my favorite one.
Oh, no.
It's really good.
It took Bloodborne to get me back in and get me caring about those games again. And so I like that this is different. I like that this feels fresh. It feels new, that it's thinking about all of these tools and ideas that you have from Elden Ring in a new way. That's why I go back to calling it like it feels like a really good Elden Ring mod. It's this really novel, interesting thing that remixes stuff that we're familiar with into new context and new light. And so I like that FromSoft did this. I think it's a cool thing, and I'm curious to see where the Duskbloods goes from here, because that's kind of their other weird, wacky project. And I'm excited to see how that comes together.
Sounds like a sitcom, The Duskbloods. The Duskbloods.
All right, those are our thoughts on Elden Ring Nightreign. What do you think? Come join us on the Discord. We're going to be playing it. We want to hear your thoughts. Okay, it's time now for a series of random encounters. Pokemon Legends ZA, whatever, officially has a release day set for October 16th, with the Switch 2 version offering improved graphics and frame rates. Relatedly, a Pokemon Presents is set for July 22nd. Wow, it's a long time from now.
Yeah.
A Persona 4 remake is reportedly in development, but Yuri Lowenthal, who played Yosuke, and Aaron Fitzgerald, who played Chie, are not involved. And in fact, Yuri Lowenthal apparently begged to be part of it, but they said, no. So I guess they completely recast it. So they got Kiefer Sutherland playing Yosuke now. So
I'm sorry, what? Is that true?
No.
That was a Metal Gear Solid 5 reference.
Okay. You scared me for a second. Nothing gives Kiefer Sutherland.
I'd be down for that. That'd be kind of sick. That'd be kind of lit.
Let Kiefer show his range.
Yeah.
Yo, man,
actually,
we gotta go on this TV.
Okay, let's recast the entire cast. Who's gonna play Teddy? Oh God.
They
recast Persona 3, didn't they? They recast Persona 3 Reloaded.
Yeah, P3
So I
Re-R.
love
Re-R.
Yuri Lowenthal, but dude, you're on everything. Give someone else a chance.
Who's Chris Pratt gonna be playing in this one?
Oh, Teddy.
God, Chris Pratt is Teddy.
Definitely,
Chris
right?
Pratt's inside Teddy. He has to be in the Teddy outfit when he voices Teddy. Yeah.
That's why Teddy takes off his head. Nothing's there. That's Chris Pratt, actually.
I love Personas. When I was growing up, I would just every morning I would stomp on the Teddies in the TVs.
Stomp on the demons in the televisions.
Yeah, I love it. I grew up with it.
We shared some of our thoughts what a Persona 4 remake might entail in a previous episode, and you may recall that last year I did This Week in GeckoCon for Persona 3 Reload. It had an amazing time. I thought they did a really amazing job remaking that game, so I would be curious to see what a Persona 4 remake would look like. If nothing else, that soundtrack is amazing. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake is coming to Switch too, but the physical edition is just a download key. Womp-a-womp womp.
That's going to be a point of contention for a lot of people, because this is even Nintendo saying, you know what, we really don't want much to do with physical anymore. Although I think it's mostly their games, which are fine, but it's the third parties that are like, we don't want to pay 64 for a 64 gig cartridge or whatever.
I think the problem is that if you're a developer, a game key card is way cheaper than a full-blown physical release like Cyberpunk is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we're back to the N64 era.
And also, a lot of people just buy stuff on. If I speak, they're gonna burn me at the stake. So I'm just gonna back off.
If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah.
I buy a lot of digital. I don't like clutter.
I still like physical games sometimes. I did buy like 3 copies of Tears of the Kingdom, and I have a physical edition of that game, and I think I'd be pretty bummed out if it were just a game key card. I think we could do a whole episode about this, honestly, but I do think that it's a bummer when a game is locked to digital-only formats, because it puts a timer on it that it could get delisted or become impossible to access in some way. And I just like the surety of having a physical release that is on a card or something that I can guarantee will not be taken off a storefront.
But Kat, you have virtual game cards now. They're like real game cards, but they just don't exist.
They're like literally the worst of all worlds.
Like 18 scratchy money. It's more fun. Like regular money, but it's more fun.
Like regular money.
God. Speaking of the Switch 2, with less than a week until release, it's apparently out in the wild already, but you can't really do much with it at this moment in time. Mitchell, are you getting a Switch 2?
Getting a Switch 2. Mostly for work, but...
Yeah, we're all in the same boat here.
The refrain of all media.
I am still excited to play Mario Kart.
This is a tavern topic in just a second. I want to talk more about this. It'll also bring new features to Nintendo Switch Online's N64 catalog, including the ability to rewind gameplay, which made people go, "Oh, you had to own a Switch 2 just to be able to do that?" But I mean, it does take up a lot of CPU, and the Switch was, just an Android tablet. Yeah, it's trying its best. It's trying. Cyberpunk 2077 sequel has a name. As pre-production gets properly underway, it'll be called Cyberpunk 2. Okay. Why not?
Really far, that's a long ways to go back.
See you on the Switch 3.
That's, do I have to play Cyberpunks 3 through 2076 to be ready for Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah.
Yes.
Every single one. It's like Trails. You can't miss this game, otherwise you don't know what's going on.
And you have to read every data log.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
In unfortunate industry news, EA's Black Panther was canceled amid the closure of Cliffhanger Studios. We could do a whole episode on this, but I think the takeaway is that EA is really past caring about anything that's not going to make it $1 billion.
Anything, yeah. Like
I'm getting news that EA has unloaded another clip into its own foot. It is once again firing and is now reloading.
Man, everything old is new again.
It's okay. Battlefield.
They just don't care about RPGs or anything that's not going to make.
On Sonic Chronicles, what are you talking about?
They're like they're 10 toes down on Battlefield right now, which I think is
they are. Apparently, it's pretty good.
Hey, look, I love Battlefield. I'm not going to down talk Battlefield. I'm going to down talk the idea of EA being like, This'll do everything for us. This'll be the everything game. No, Battlefield is the Battlefield game. Like it's Battlefield. It's not Fortnite.
Do they not have FIFA? I don't have FIFA the property, but don't they have like soccer?
They have Sports FC, but I believe according to recent financials that it has not been as successful. I mean, like it's matters.
It's still making it's making so much money.
And college football has been a huge success for them. EA College Football has been fantastic. So really? I will give
they're making
that team its roses.
as an EA watcher, a longtime EA watcher, this is what I'll say about EA. They don't care about the RPGs anymore, and I wouldn't even be shocked if Mass Effect never comes out.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I'm actually kind of not expecting it to ever show up. EA, because they are fully about the shareholders, have made a very cold business calculation. The sports games make all the money, and so did The Sims. So why are they bothering with these other games? Just double and triple down on these. They really hoped that someone would come by and buy EA Entertainment off them, and they could just focus on all of that. Nobody has, for various reasons. I think they got kind of screwed by the pandemic, among other things. But it makes me sad, just as someone who enjoys video games and looks at the dragon hoard of IP that EA is sitting on.
Yeah.
I was having a thought exercise a little while ago. If I could rescue one IP from EA, SimCity, Command and Conquer, Ultima, what would it be? And I was like, Wing Commander. Oh my god!
Oh, Wing Commander.
Give me a Wing Commander.
Right?
There's
and
just
more camel.
It really breaks my heart to see so many classic games just trapped at EA forever. And the best possible situation would be for someone to buy EA Entertainment and all that IP and be able to make games with them again. That's all.
Yeah, we're all basically at the point where we have to wait for kind billionaires to buy things and give us things, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm afraid.
I mean, that's how I felt about Konami for a very long time.
Yeah. Konami at least now
Konami's kind of back.
Yeah,
they're making a freaking Gradius collection. Hooray!
And
they're good at
doing
their retro.
Stuff, so they are coming back. I need a new Castlevania, dang it.
Yeah. I was going to say Konami's back in the sense that they're like remastering a lot of their old stuff, and then anything like new or even like a remake of something new, they're kind of giving to other people and outsourcing, which is probably the smart move ultimately, and makes me wish that maybe EA would get a little bit freer with the Mass Effect license or something and say, let's get a third party studio in here to make a really cool Mass Effect game or something like that. That would be neat. That would be rad. That'd be neat. But yeah,
I am happy to see Level 5 is back at least.
Yo, Level 5 is so
it's nice to know that they stuck the landing.
I'll take any good news, honestly.
Yeah. So I'm actually really looking forward to what they got next, including the next Titan.
Speaking of good news, Expedition 33 has now sold 3.3 million copies. Good for them.
Ooh, how symbolic.
Returning to an earlier random encounter, this is a question I want to ask for the panel. If you were not in the games industry and this was not your job, would you buy a Switch 2 at launch?
I am going to say yes, simply because I do want to play Mario Kart. I could wait, but I don't know if the situation is going to be with the Switch once this shipment is done, if you know what I mean. Like, I know I will stand in line. I have my paper receipt. I will get a Switch 2, and God knows what's going to happen to the world after that. So, like, I feel like this is my opportunity to grab a Switch 2 while I can. If you remember, the Switch was impossible to find, and that was before everything was completely destroyed on planet Earth. So I just was like, I don't even have the money for this, but I have to get it, and it's got to be now, or it's going to be a year from now or something.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
I was just gonna say I probably wouldn't have thought to get it during the whole pre-order chaos. Like I wouldn't put myself through the nightmare of like sitting in or like refreshing a Target web page for like an hour trying to get through to the checkout. So I probably wouldn't do that, and then I would later decide like a week from the release that I actually wanted it. And I would probably try to whatever way I could to get it at that point, but I would probably fail.
I think
exactly.
I think it depends on where I'm at in my life, because I think if this was me right now, yeah, probably I want a Switch 2, but the me of like college era, I waited on the 3DS for a long time. I got a Wii U pretty late in life. There was a point in time where I had a bunch of Christmas money that I had saved up over the years, and I just went and bought, like, literally in one trip, I got a Wii U and then like a stack of Wii U games for like, and honestly, I got it for pretty cheap because it was almost Switch launch time, and I was like, I just want to see the Wii U and like what it does and kind of check it out. But I think Mario Kart is a really tempting one. If it was flipped, if Donkey Kong was at launch and Mario Kart was later, I hate to say I would wait for Mario Kart to be out. I think Mario Kart is a system seller, as I've said before on this podcast. That
it's coming out at launch.
The party, I'm saying if it was if it was flipped, I would have waited for Mario Kart. Like that's the power.
I don't think
that
it's
Mario
a system
Kart has.
seller. I think it's an add-on. I think it's the game that everybody they buy another game and then they go, I'm also going to pick up Mario Kart.
Oh, I think if you buy a Switch, you buy Mario Kart. I mean, we saw it with Switch
of course,
1.
But it's not a system seller. It's I'm buying a Switch. I'm getting Mario Kart.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Maybe. I don't know. People love Mario Kart. Like there's no doubt. I guess the question is this new one shiny enough? It's the first new Mario Kart we've had in a while if you don't count the mobile
More
version.
than 10 years.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be some pretty intense FOMO once the clips of Mario Kart start hitting TikTok
maybe.
and YouTube Shorts and whatnot.
And this one, I think they did all the right things.
What's the next Luigi's death stare?
I don't know. It's the cow. It's just the
new
cow.
Luigi death stare.
Yeah.
It's the cow. Moo.
I'm always doing this. I'm always turning on the TV and asking, "What's the new Luigi?" You know what I'm saying? I think it's the cow. There
was this big conspiracy brain thing about how Nintendo hates Wario, and they were pointing out all the ways that Nintendo completely de-emphasizes Wario as a character. They pointing out things like how in Mario Kart World they have this giant cast of characters, but where's Wario? Oh, he's over there if you look really closely and stuff like that. How even Waluigi tends to get more play than Wario these days.
People need to get off the internet.
People
find weird patterns.
I still think about how they let Waluigi do the cross chop in the soccer
isn't that
game.
great?
That's insane. Like I know Nintendo does get a little spicy with it more often than people give them credit for, but Waluigi doing the cross chop is still absolutely
When I saw
insane.
that, I'm like, and that's not a very Nintendo thing for you to do, Luigi. You're telling people to literally suck it. You're Waluigi.
Waluigi Death Stare cross chop. That's what it's gonna be. He's gonna be in the cart just
I got 2 words for ya. That's one word.
But
maybe that's why he never made into Smash Brothers, because of that cross chop. The Nintendo
exactly.
Too strong.
They can't put Mai Shiranui in there. You can't put Waluigi in there either.
He's in the NWO Wolfpack. He would be a fucking Wolfpack.
I think for Switch 2, I was talking about this the other day that I actually think it's a surprisingly good launch lineup for RPG fans, because you've got Bravely Default at launch. You've got Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4, which are on other platforms, but I think there is an appeal, especially if you play Deltarune Chapters 1 and 2 on Switch, to play Chapters 3 and 4 at Switch 2 launch. And that's going to be a significant chunk of game right there between those two. And then you also have Switch 2 versions of games that are coming out right now. So I think Rune Factory, Guardians of Ozma, and Fantasy Life I are both getting Switch 2 versions. Suikoden is getting a Switch 2 version. There's a lot of like good RPGs that if you've been patient on them, if you haven't picked them up yet, like suddenly Switch 2 looks like a really good prospect for picking those games up now. And I say this as somebody, I bought an original launch Switch. I remember the day I opened that box, and
me too.
Oh, there's my Switch, there's my Pro Controller, there's my little Link amiibo, and there's my copy of Breath of the Wild, all in one beautiful box. It was incredible. It was like Christmas Day. It's one of the only times opening a new electronic in the last like 2 decades of my life that I felt like, oh, this is amazing. This is incredible. And I spent the entire day playing Breath of the Wild. That's not going to happen with the Switch 2. I'm going to play Mario Kart for like 20 minutes and then be like, oh, I need to go do something else now. But I think as an upgrade, especially for my OLED, which is like Xenoblade X makes it sound like a Harrier jet taking off right now. So like I'm looking forward to just the hardware capability, like boosting it up. Clubhouse games will never look better. But
Eric's obsessed with Clubhouse games. It's like, yeah, let's play
I'm
Clubhouse games on the stream, and I'm like, okay,
you don't want to play some Mancala? You don't want to play some
What the hell is
Yacht Dice?
Mancala?
You don't know Mancala?
There's
It's
a-
where you drop the little things in the buckets.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I noticed there's a lot of emphasis, or people are talking about a lot about how they're going to go back to certain games on the Switch that they couldn't really play or didn't get to,
Like
or didn't
Clubhouse
perform
games.
well. And I feel like this is like the first time I've seen this kind of spillover from one generation to another. Maybe the only one that came close was Game Boy Advance and DS, because you could play both for the first model of the DS. But yeah, this is certainly an instance where people are saying, well, okay, even if I get bored of Mario Kart, like there's other games coming, of course. Nintendo, I don't think they're going to make the mistake ever again where they have nothing in the way of a lineup. But there's so much that it's basically like I don't have a Steam Deck. And this is not a bad replacement at all. Plus, I get Nintendo's like games when they come out. Still can't play Trails, of course, but yeah.
I think the thing that bothers me about the way Nintendo is pushing this, not that I want to just backseat Nintendo's marketing or whatever, but they're really pushing hard on that you can play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom again, because they know that's the smash hits from Switch 1. Those were the ones that really, like, I would say, even this might be controversial, I think they elevated Zelda into like the Mario tier of Nintendo properties. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Zelda was always popular. I had Link's Awakening on Game Boy, one of the first games I ever owned myself. I love that game, but Zelda like pushed into the level of cultural awareness that like Mario is at now, and that's really saying something, because Mario's at like Mickey Mouse levels. But like like I understand why they're like, you can play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They're gonna work super well on the Switch too, but they're like really pushing those two. And I know they don't want to go and say, you know, as Nadia put it, the Pokemon Scarlet Violet unfucked editions. Like they don't want to just outright say like, yeah, you can play versions of these games that actually run like they're running on a modern computer and stuff like that. But you can play those games, and like they're putting videos out now, and they're putting out stuff that's like, hey, yeah, draw distance, frame rate, all of it's better. And I'm like, yeah, I want that. I actually like that Level 5 and Fantasy Life I, they went out there and they were like, here's Switch 1 and Switch 2. You can see the difference between the two. Because some companies might be like, oh, this makes our Switch 1 version look bad. That's Fantasy Life I and Level 5 being like, hey, here's what you're going to get. Like, YouTubers are probably going to do this after we launch the game anyways. And it sells me on the idea of wanting to invest into that, because I'm like, yeah, that's something that I would like. It's a meaningful improvement. That's really cool. Thank you, Level 5. And so I kind of wish there was more of that energy, and not just like, remember those games you already played hundreds of hours of on the Switch 1? You can put more hundreds of hours of them into the Switch 2. Like, that doesn't sell me on it.
Okay, so if I were not in the games industry, I would not be buying a Switch 2 at launch, because I already have a gaming PC and a Steam Deck, and I'm pretty happy with my Switch as it is, and it always comes down to games. And Donkey Kong and Mario Kart World aren't day one games for me. I would play them and enjoy them. And the hardware upgrades, and even getting GameCube on NSO, they're nice to haves for me, I suppose. When a Zelda comes out, obviously I would be there day one. That's not going to be for another couple years, I don't think.
I do wonder when the next Zelda's coming out.
I think I would probably pick one up when the next Mario, like the proper 3D Mario, came out.
Not for Metroid.
There are a handful of games that would genuinely sell me on it. Maybe Prime 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say Metroid seems like it might convince at least some
so
folks.
Good.
I would definitely want to play Prime 4 on a Switch 2 rather than a Switch, and that would probably push me over the edge.
I'm gonna get so like
also
gamer
Pokemon
toxic.
Za. I think Za is would low key sell me on it, because I think playing Za on the OG Switch is going to be a miserable experience.
I think it'll be miserable, but
I was just gonna say, just give a shout to Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like Eric said,
it's okay.
If it swapped, like, you know, you wouldn't be a day one Switch person. I would be. I would be back in the Walmart or Target pre-order if Donkey Kong was a launch game. That game looks incredible, and Donkey Kong is my favorite mascot for Nintendo.
Nice.
So
It does
Good choice.
look good, and I love Donkey Kong, noted lover of Donkey Kong across many brands, but for some reason I've never enjoyed a Donkey Kong game. It's really weird. I love Donkey Kong as a character, but every time I play DKC, every time I play Tropical Freeze or something like that, I'm just like, doesn't super do it for me. So I actually think Bonanza could be something that opens me up to actually playing Donkey Kong, because it looks just really fun and inventive and fresh. But that's also like, that's why it's not a system seller for me, is I'm like, that's a maybe. I end up liking this a lot, and I don't remember what price point it's at, but I'm betting it's at least a slightly higher price point, like at least a $70. I don't think it's the $90, but or whatever it is, but
I think
No,
only
that's Mario.
is
Yeah.
90.
yeah. But with Bonanza, that is the one that I'm curious about, but that's why it's not a system seller, because I'm curious. It's not like Mario Kart where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get Mario Kart. Like, why would you own a Nintendo console, any Nintendo thing, and not own the Mario Kart? It's same with Smash Brothers. Like, that should just. I'm bummed that there's not a Switch 2 pack in game. That's also something I'm bummed about, which granted the Switch 1 did not have a pack in game, but I really think that Welcome Tour should have just been a pack in
That
game.
Welcome Tour should be a packing. Come on, Nintendo.
Unbelievable.
Like I get that when you go to a museum, sometimes you pay to get in and stuff like that, and that supports the museum and that lets them do the things they want to do, and that's a very good thing. But this is not a museum. We're already buying the Nintendo Switch 2. You don't have to buy the museum before you walk inside and pay the tour price. You know what I'm saying? So like that part just baffles me. But yeah, I do think a lot of the lack of enthusiasm is tied around the lack of a big, Breath of the Wild-esque game, or even like I'm curious about what their long-term plans are for Smash, for other major franchises that they have, what their rollout looks like. I wouldn't be surprised if 2025 ends up being kind of a quieter year on the front for Switch 2, that they just kind of try and get the games out, and then 2026 is where we start to see the stuff that's really going to make the console take off and feel like it's got wind under its wings. But I think back to like 2017, and that was such a thunderously good year for the Switch. Like, you had Breath of the Wild, you had, I think Mario Odyssey was also that year. Was Splatoon 2 also that year, and then a lot of indies that were absolutely incredible. I hope
It was the
we see
perfect storm.
I hope we
It
see
was a good-
something
it
like
was a perfect
that,
storm.
but I'm not seeing the runway laid out for it right now.
I think the June Direct will say a lot about what the first year of the Switch is going to switch
Plus
to.
the
is gonna look
Pokemon
like.
Direct, like there's
And the
gonna be a
Pokemon
next
Direct
game
for
that.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be fine. I don't think it'll do as well as the Switch one, but I think it'll be fine.
When I did my pre-order, like there was a very big lineup.
Oh,
So-
there's a lot of excitement around the thing, but
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go off the shelves in a second.
I want to move on. But before I do that, I do have a small announcement. I'm starting a newsletter. The first issue will be out on June 5th, and I talked to a lot of analysts. I talked to like Circa and Toto and people like that, Chris String from the game business, and I basically was asking, like, what are the opportunities and pitfalls awaiting the Switch 2 going forward? This is going to be a Nintendo-focused newsletter. I'm just kind of shifting away a little bit from my usual beats and going toward the other thing that I love, which is Nintendo. And if you want to subscribe to that, it comes out every single week. It's nintendcats.beehive.com. Nintendcats with a K. So go check it out. Our usual designer for Axe of the Blood God did just a killer logo for it.
It's really cute.
I really love it.
It's really good.
So that's live now, and the first issue will be out on Thursday, and there will be a way to support the newsletter. And if I get a high enough amount of money, if I get to the $3,000 in like total revenue from this thing, I'm going to start a podcast around it, a Nintendo podcast. So, so yeah, big week. Big Nintendo week, Nintendcats. Go check it out. All right. I promised that we were going to do some SGF predictions before we wrapped up this. So let's go around. What's your prediction for the for Summer Game Fest. My prediction is that the SGF stream is going to be really long and really boring as usual, but there will be at least one game that makes me go, oh.
You don't say.
Yeah. I do think that the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be shown in some capacity during the thing.
Oh, that's interesting. I think that we are going to get some.
I think it'll close out Xbox.
We're going to get some kind of big reveal, and Prince Joffrey's going to start crying like he did for Death Stranding. God, we're all just at his birthday party again. This happens twice a year, and we keep falling for it.
There was this whole thing where Jeff Keighley posted partners, and their Switch 2 was in there, and people were like, Nintendo's at SGF. This is not a drill. And it's like, no, they just have ads with him.
I was going to say, anything they're announcing is going to be on their direct. They don't need Keighley.
Yeah.
Give me a prediction, Eric.
It's tricky. So I'm doing a lot of the SGF stuff for us. So that's not me going, haha, I know things, but haha, I know things. And
haha, it's going to be boring.
You're so cool, Eric. Wow.
No, I'm saying this because industry insider. I have to kind of take a shot at something that I have no basis for, no background for. I just want to see what Square Enix has got planned for the rest of the year. I think we've got Dragon Quest on the horizon, but I think there's obviously a big open vacuum now that we're past the likes of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16. We're between expansions right now in 14. I think there's just big, wide open, as the chicks would say, wide open spaces, room to make some mistakes. And I would like to see what they do with that, especially with the Switch 2. Square Enix has been a pretty good, supporter of the Switch in the past, has been a frequent collaborator with Nintendo in the past on Switch titles or very Switch focused titles, things like Triangle Strategy and Octopath Traveler. So I'm hoping for something like that, either in Playdays or not Playdays, like the SGF, whatever, I forgot what it's called, the actual kickoff stream or whatever, the 3-hour bonanza, or at a Nintendo event or something like that. I would hope that the P4 remake is real and is coming to Xbox, which is where I think it would show up, because that's kind of where you would expect that sort of thing would show up. If only because if any Persona game that is not pre-3, and even pre-3, I don't think you need to go back too much. I think Persona 2 probably holds up quite well. But I think P4 could use some tuning, could use some fixing, could use some modern quality of life stuff. And if anything is going to benefit from a round 2, I think it's Persona 4. So I would like to hope that is real and that this is all one big psyop. There is the theory out there that the order that voice actors have been saying they're not involved with the game is the same order that you recruit the characters in the game, and so that's kind of that's like a big tinfoil hat conspiracy.
That's a real tinfoil hat.
Now, number one, do I think that's in my heart of hearts, do I think that's real? No, I do not. Number two, would it be the sickest thing to pull off if it was real? Yes, it absolutely would be. I would commend them for pulling that off and having the tenacity to kind of try that, the audacity to try it. So I
have to say,
I hope it's real.
One of my favorite, not just Summer Game Fest moments, Game Awards moments, but also just my favorite show moment in general is when they revealed Joker in Smash. That was a lot of fun. When they just kind of hijacked the... That's CGA? Okay, yeah, they just kind of hijacked the thing, and they had all the voice actors doing a whole new bit and a whole new animation, and the invitation animation became legendary.
There's nothing quite like a Smash Brothers character announcement.
Yeah,
I miss those. We were all friends.
Sakurai,
you know what would make me
about Terry?
All I want in the world is Expansion Pass 3. That would be so wonderful. But let him cook. Let him go make Kirby's Air Rider.
Yo, that's sick. That's so sick.
Yeah, that's cool.
He's earned this.
He can do whatever he wants. He's one of those developers. He can like take a dump in public on a sidewalk and say,
Yeah. No, I think that honestly, again, RPGs are where my head's usually at for this stuff, and I would like to see kind of where Square Enix is going, and also if this stuff pans out, because Atlas also has big wide open space in front of it now that Metaphor and P3R are out the door. There's no Yakuza announced yet. Like there's a lot of room there for them to announce stuff too, whether that happens this summer or later on in the year. But eventually they're going to have to make something, because they are ostensibly still companies that make video games. So it's,
how they say.
Yeah.
There's in the chat saying Final Fantasy IX remake. I definitely think we're seeing the remake at the Game Awards, or the Summer Game Mess. And maybe that's when Keeley will start to cry. Okay, I got it. We're gonna get a Final Fantasy IX reveal remake, and Keeley's gonna start crying about it.
I could see it. Or it'll be at the Nintendo Direct.
That's a good question. I wonder who gets it first.
It's going to be really funny if the SGF stream ends up being a whole lot of nothing, and then the Nintendo Direct shows up out of nowhere with like huge massive news right afterwards.
Yeah.
It'll just kind of like sweep the leg of that show in a way that like maybe isn't surprising but is still very funny.
I feel like if Reggie was still around, we'd get some good Nintendo reveals on the show, but I don't. I think Reggie's connection, once it was severed, Nintendo of Japan was just like, yeah, we're good, thank you. We have our own hype train going on here.
I need the Nintendo Direct to be the last week of June, because it'll be kind of a bad time for me if it's.
They'll organize that specifically for you, Kat. Don't worry, Nintendo.
Well, they usually do me a solid, but I'm just kind of like sweating a little bit because, yeah. Anyway, Mitchell, any predictions for SGF?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fairly safe prediction. I think we're going to see something about Resident Evil 9. You know, they did that teaser hidden in the Resident Evil 4 kind of, what was it, like an accolades trailer or something like that? Or like an anniversary celebration trailer or something. And then they had like the 9 in Roman numerals on the little sign. So I think we're going to see Resident Evil 9. I think we'll probably see something new from FromSoftware. I think, you know, Duskbloods is
another new thing.
I mean, I think Duskbloods is kind of like a smaller kind of side project for them that, you know, they're working on. I think they're probably gonna have a new, you know, big single player. Their next big thing, I think we could probably see at SGF.
I was gonna pitch you on what if Nightreign, but with armored core mechs.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say
right,
no.
right, or like an extraction. Look, I will be the first to say we don't need more extraction shooters. Yeah, but
I'd be down.
Yeah. And Mitchell, they're doing IGN Live again.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be there for, I believe, Saturday and Sunday. Gonna be mostly segment producing, so I'll be backstage. But I am hosting a panel on Sunday. I can't tell you what it's about, but it's my first panel that I get to host. I'm excited about it.
Oh, good luck.
ooh,
Yeah, thank you.
I think the Critical Role folks are going to be there as well. So
Yeah, they're gonna be there.
Celebrity lineup.
I think we got a Devs React to Speedrun, a live version of it with the cast of Claire Obscura, I believe.
Oh,
So-
sweet.
very cool.
Yeah,
That's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a good time.
Excellent. Well, I'm wishing you all the best.
you.
All my old pals over at IGN the best in the second year for IGN Live. As for Summer Game Fest, that'll be airing on June 6th at 2 p.m. Pacific. We will be co-streaming and reacting to it. I'll drag Nadia on. Maybe I'll get Victor on.
That's my wedding anniversary. That's 24 years.
Congrats.
24 years. Happy
What's up, June
anniversary.
9th? Thank you. It's either the 6th or the 9th. Sorry.
Huh? Wait, it's my. Actually, I don't know if it is or not. It's one of those.
I think it's the
days.
9th.
Who could say?
Sorry.
Certainly
I'm really
not
bad at
anyone that
numbers.
was there.
We'll also be co-streaming the Xbox Game Showcase, which is at June 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific. I think we can definitely expect, say, something from Fable, more
Oh, right.
RPGs
Yeah.
of the like. Yeah, there are a bunch of RPGs that we haven't seen a huge amount of. And then, of course, The Outer Worlds 2 is getting a very large presentation after that. So we'll stick around and keep streaming it after that. So that'll be a very long one. And there's also the PC Gaming Show on June 8th. We're not co-streaming that one. It's on 12 p.m. Pacific, but that one often has a lot of really cool indies, interesting smaller announcements that are going to be more PC related. And if for the hardcore CRPG fans, you could potentially see some cool stuff in there. So keep an eye out on that. And Eric is going to be at SGF, so he's not going to be able to be around, but please look forward to some bonus content from Eric as well. And then, of course, next week for the weekly recording, we'll be sharing our thoughts after, owning the Switch 2, everything that's happening there, and all of our reactions to the SGF as part of the weekly live shows. So very, very busy week upcoming. All right. That's it for the tavern. Nadia, take us home.
Eric, I want you to go to the notes and read what I wrote. I wanted to know if you've heard the story or not.
Okay. Number 4. Nadia's nostalgia nook, : power drill down the pants.
No, that's not something. Okay, yeah.
I don't care if you have said this one before. I want to hear this one again if you have. Okay.
This is like a really old one I told ages ago. I'm sure you weren't with us, but basically this was about like when I was in grade, I think it was 8, it's grade 8. Our school every year would have something called an electives day, where you would have a whole list of field trips you could take optionally, and for that day you would go to that field trip. And I've done things like I've gone horseback riding, I've done really cool stuff like that, but these trips often cost money, and as I got older, of course, I'm getting jaded, so I'm just like, I'm just going to stay in the school and not do... And if you stayed in the school that day, you got shunted into woodshop, and you just fucked around all day in woodshop, because that's a safe place to put a bunch of poor kids. So my brother and I were both in woodshop that day. He was 2 grades ahead of me. And so we're just all kind of banging around, doing our thing. No real specific instructions for the day, except don't kill each other. But that turned out to be kind of problematic, because I was somewhere over at the other side of the shop, and I just suddenly hear someone screaming, holy shit, oh my god, over and over again. I don't know if it was like an accident or an actual like act of malice, but somehow a kid got a power drill down his pants. And it missed his junk, luckily, but there's a huge ass hole in his like pants, which I saw with my own 2 eyes, and I'm like, wow. And here's the thing: this should have been reported. This should have been an international incident. But my shop teacher, my shop teacher was like infamous for not giving a fuck. And in fact, I really wanted him for my grade 7 class, but I didn't get him, and I always liked him because he had a Street Fighter poster that was like aged to shit, so it was like had no color left, but I always liked that. So he just looks at these kids screaming, and he's like, is there a problem here? And so nothing got reported. The day just kind of went on. This kid had this huge hole in his jeans because somebody stuck a power drill down his pants. And like I said, to this day, I don't know if it was just he accidentally dropped it or someone actually pulled out his waistband and dropped it in there like a live crab.
That shop teacher is possibly one of the wisest people alive, because in about a split second, he accurately... We talked earlier about bringing information in and then spitting out a decision, right? He looked, saw that no one was dead, no one was dying, no blood was visible. All that happened was a hole in the pants. He's like, we good?
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
And everyone moved on with their lives. It's like, we don't
It
need
was
to
definitely
belabor
the
the
90s.
point. Yeah,
It really was.
that's
like-
an energy we need back these days.
I love the shop teacher in South Park. Stop screwing around. This is what happens when you screw around.
I wonder why we don't have shop class anymore, you know?
Not only that, I'll tell you the story next time of my metal shop class. You want to talk about some real
Metal
bangers?
shop?
No.
For some reason, I don't know why to this day, my grade school is really tailored to trades, which is great. but nobody really was encouraging kids in the 90s to get into trades. They were like, you got to do computers. Do what with computers? Just get into computers. What does that mean? I don't know. Hey, I can't find a job. Well, that's your fault. But it's just a trick to us, and it's really a shame because I liked woodshop, I liked metal shop, but it was just a place where you went and threw drills at each other instead of actually doing any serious work. Instead of doing
you throw drills at each other.
Well, it wasn't like, okay, this is a serious option for you guys. You can actually make things. You can actually do a trade. It's like, no, nobody really encouraged that. It was just like, okay, you're here for an hour because no one else wants to deal with you.
Nadia, you talk about throwing drills at each other. Earlier, you're like, I was on the other side of the room. I don't know what was happening over there where a drill was getting dropped down pants.
I'm learning a lot of things.
Are you the drill pantser?
No, I do not have the courage to shove a drill down someone's pants.
Can we put this on oath? Can we get this under
Here's
testimony?
the thing about me. Yes, I am and was an agent of chaos, but I know how to not get blamed for it, which was...
Yeah, one of those ways is lying.
I wasn't a good liar.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I could never really... I'd never really had the courage to throw a drill down someone's pants, but I'd be encouraging them. I'd be like laughing. I was always everyone's favorite audience, as my brother would say.
So you're not the drill pantser, but you're not going to stop the drill pantser.
Exactly.
Okay,
I'm gonna let it happen. I'm gonna let things happen. Like let's see how this plays out.
We're all looking for who's behind this.
Holding two drills in her hands.
I don't have to instigate because the truth is, when I used to hang around guys a lot, and when you get two guys in the same room, they're gonna do something stupid, and that was enough because it just gave me my entertainment for the day.
You can't let more than 7 dudes assemble at the same time, or else what happens is called the jackass anomaly, is that our brain cells like just turn into a single brain cell, and then some dude has like the worst idea you've ever heard, and every other dude is like, yeah. And
there's a reason why almost every animal they find in a tar pit is male.
Yo, but
is that real?
That's true.
Are you spreading misinformation?
I swear to God, it's true. It's I almost called them the La Habrea of tar pits, but if you look up information about, isn't that good? If you look it up, like mostly males got stuck in tar pits and shit like that because they're male animals when they go on their own tend to be kind of stupid.
Because he almost made the jump, man. He was so close.
You almost did it, man. Oh, I can get out of this. Oh man. Oh shit, dudes.
And on that note, that's it for this week's episode of Axe of the Blood God. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us at Patreon, patreon.com/bloodgodpod. Mitchell, you're a special guest. Thanks so much for joining us. Where can we find you?
Thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Blue Sky at Jurassic Rabbit, on Twitter at Jurassic Rabbit. Pretty much any kind of media thing, put Jurassic Rabbit on it, and there's a good chance that you will find me.
Very good. And we are heading over to the Axe of the Blood God post show with the Stars of Destiny. We're going to hang out. We're going to vibe some more. We're going to talk about various things. What will those topics be? Usually we expand on whatever happened in the show, and then we go completely off the rails, just like we do in the pre-show. So you can do that. You can join us for that if you are in the Stars of Destiny. And we're also going to be putting out a sign-up form imminently for Stars of Destiny people for year-on pins. We're going to do another run of those to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the podcast. They're really cool. I have one sitting around here somewhere. I know a lot of people have joined the Stars of Destiny since we did the initial run. If you want to be part of that, join the Stars of Destiny right now. Wow. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to twitch.tv/bloodgodpod. In the meantime, I've been your host, Kat Bailey. Thank you so much for listening. And for Nadia, Eric, Mitchell, and myself, we'll see you next week. And happy adventuring.